Good evening and welcome to Prime Edition. The showdown between the opposition and government continues, and of course it has gone to the floor of the House. Today, members of Parliament were discussing the events of Monday, as well as resistance growing on the privatization bill allowed by Cabinet that is headed to Parliament, that of course denies Parliament the powers to decide which private or public entities should be privatized. That conversation is in our news today, and of course we'll also be engaging the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, Duncan Maina Madenge, DMM, who will be joining us in studio this night. Be sure to catch up with that conversation. But first things first, the highlights.
Through the rule of law, the government will take robust measures to honor and respect the rights of all and demonstrate that no one is above the law.
President William Ruto orders an end to impunity and lawlessness in the country. Heated debate ensues in Parliament over the mass action demonstrations. Opposition MPs oppose privatization bill, faulting sidelining of Parliament from the process. And poverty and drought in Samburu forces young girls to drop out of school to fend for their families. Welcome to the broadcast. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Byron Abuli. Now, President Dr. William Ruto says the government will deal with individuals he says are bent on impeding the nation's economic progress. While presiding over the listing of Lab Trust Rail at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, Ruto reiterated that no unwarranted demonstrations will be allowed in the country, and saying the government will take robust measures against acts of lawlessness.
Days after opposition held demonstrations in different parts of the country, President William Ruto has vowed to deal decisively with individuals he said want to put brakes on the nation's economic progress.
Through the rule of law, the government will take robust measures to honor and respect the rights of all and demonstrate that no one is above the law by decisively combating impunity, lawlessness and disorder.
The president said there's no reason for anyone to try and stand on the way of a free enterprises for personal selfish interests, and economic saboteurs will be met with the force of the law and be made fully accountable to vindicate Kenya's commitment as a free economy.
We have a duty to ensure that every worker and every hustler from Amamboga MSME to the global multinational corporation operating in Kenya enjoy a conducive environment to pursue their goals unhindered.
The head of state assured business owners and investors that the country is secure and conducive for trading.
I am looking forward to days in the very near future when we will be reporting every Monday and every Thursday to be the days that were traded highest in the Nairobi Stock Exchange.
Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
And my bad, our sign language interpreter is not Byron Abuli, it is Brian Muraru. Now, the recent demonstrations by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition saw the bicameral parliament Wednesday adjourn the scheduled House business to discuss the fate of the now bi-weekly anti-government protests. In a heated debate, MPs allied to the ruling party called upon the opposition to call off the demonstrations, citing it as destructive to the economy. But Azimio allied legislators maintained it was within their constitutional rights to picket peacefully. They vowed to carry on with the demonstrations until the government heeds to their demands, including lowering the cost of living, opening of its servers, and suspending the reconstitution of an independent electoral and boundaries commission.
Kitendo hicho cha kupiga risasi ni kinyume cha sheria. Askari hawaruhusiwi kupiga watu risasi. Askari hawaruhusiwi hata hiyo tear gas unarusha wakati kuna fujo.
Madam Speaker, we have decided that there will be individual responsibility on police officers. Not every police officer on that day misbehaved. And we have said kudos to all the police officers who observed Article 37. But there are few elements who still don't understand the breadth of this particular right, Madam Speaker.
These people are economic saboteurs. Yeah. Over 2 billion was lost, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my colleagues in Kenya Kwanza as lawyers, we are collecting and doing quantum and quantifying the losses that was done by demonstrators of Azimio and One Kenya Alliance. Madam Speaker, on Monday we are moving to court.
The behavior, Mr. Speaker, by the leaders of the demonstrations and the demonstrators themselves is nothing other than an act of anarchy.
The citizen of Kenya does not have arms. Mr. Speaker, those who maintain peace and order are the police. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that those who are killed, as we have heard from the boy who was killed in Maseno, was killed by the police. And I also want to add that when the business community restrained from doing their business, they restrained from doing their business because of fear-mongering.
There is limit to every right, in as much as they are clear in Clause Article 19 and 37. That doesn't give anybody the immunity to destroy people's property, to go for the lives and limbs of Kenyans.
Responsible opposition requires matters be dealt with in institutions like this one. I would therefore like to appeal to my party Azimio to rethink these demonstrations for the sake of Kenya and Kenyans at this critical time when we need to do a lot.
And now the Catholic Church is urging the opposition to explore other avenues of agitating for their demands instead of resorting to violent demonstrations. The church is urging Kenyans to boycott such protests, saying the actions will not solve the problems cited. The church is instead advocating for a national conversation on the issues ailing the country, urging the political class to feel for the country and follow the path of peace and dialogue for prosperity.
The Catholic Church says the fact that demonstrations are illegal, as per the country's constitution, it should not be made a vehicle to paralyze the country or as a means to attempt to overthrow a legitimate government.
The fact that it is legal to demonstrate should not make it a vehicle to paralyze the country, nor degenerate to forceful takeover of a legitimate government.
It says Kenya must submit to the rule of law and not individual perspectives, and that the country should not entertain any attempt that seeks to legitimize the use of violence to force a government takeover.
We should not entertain any goal that seeks to use violence or force to take leadership.
It says it is unfortunate that such demonstrations have turned into looting and destruction of property, and that the only way to avoid anarchy is to be guided by the constitution and the laws of the land.
Demonstrations cannot annul or take over the constitution. We must respect the rule of law. The only way to avoid chaos and anarchy is always to follow the constitution and the laws of the land.
In Kiambu, who have urged Raila Odinga to respect his position as a statesman and as an elder and call off the mass protests they claim are hurting the innocent Kenyans.
We therefore appealing to the former Prime Minister, the Honorable Omolo Odinga, who is a statesman and an elder, to be positive to all Kenyans. And be sympathetic to the rest of Kenyans who are suffering from these hard economic times.
While the Kenya Union of Domestic and Hospitality Workers Union is urging for talks between the opposition and the government for a solution, terming mass actions counterproductive.
His Excellency, we are only requesting and asking you, it is only you and our former Prime Minister who can be able to sit down and be able to solve this issue like yesterday.
Joan Junge for Prime Edition.
Because the question is dialogue or not. That conversation again will be forming the basis of interaction tonight with the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, Duncan Maina Mathenge. And of course this Members of Parliament allied to Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party have opposed the privatization bill that seeks to allow privatization of state parastatals without the approval of Parliament. Led by leaders of minorities from both houses, the lawmakers accused the Kenya Kwanza government of plotting to sell government assets under the guise of reviving them. The privatization bill was approved on Tuesday by the cabinet and is set to be considered by Parliament.
If adopted by Parliament as proposed by the Cabinet, the privatization bill will grant the national executive powers to privatize state-owned corporations without involvement of Parliament. MPs from the minority side in both houses raising alarm against the proposed law, arguing it will give Treasury and cartels unchecked powers to sell government assets, some of which were donated by communities.
We will not be party to any plans to sell the ports of Mombasa, Lamu, and affiliate Kenya Ports Authority installations in different parts of the country, including Kisumu, Busia, Siaya, Homa Bay, and Migori, among others. That the proposed sale of assets is not meant to revive the institutions. It is meant to help people in Kenya Kwanza who have formed companies in Asia, Middle East, and Eastern Europe. Those are the people who want to take over our critical assets, make money, and then sell them further to foreign interests.
Anytime in an era such as ours, where our Constitution and Article 10 requires that whenever any public policy shift decision is made, there must be public participation. Any process where you see people saying they want to remove parliamentary oversight, that is a questionable process. And we know some of our brothers in Western Kenya have already sold our people out. Deposits have been paid to some members of parliament from Bungoma.
The Azimio leaders accused the government of planning to sell Mombasa and Lamu ports, the Postal Corporation of Kenya, and various sugar companies, ostensibly to revive them.
I want to beseech leaders to be able to slow down on this appetite for wealth. And whatever we do, we preserve it for future generation. We'll be judged really harshly by future generation. If they come, our own children and those even who are still in our meat, if they come and they find that we sold everything.
We as leaders from that region, we are not going to allow any transaction on such parastatal until due process is followed and the community is involved fully.
Wakulima ama county government iweze kupewa nafasi ya kwanza kuweza kuendesha hiyo kampuni, wakulima wenyewe. Lakini si ati serikali iweze kuuza tu kwa mtu any highest bidder, haiwezekani.
Should the bill be passed, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Jogona Ndongo will be responsible for formulation and development of the government privatization program, subject to cabinet approval. Privatization of parastatals has emerged as a priority in President William Ruto's fiscal consolidation plan, with proceeds from the sales to be deposited into the consolidated fund for budgetary spending. Rishok Washira, Prime Edition.
In the meantime, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has called on principal secretaries to introduce synergy and dispensation of their respective responsibilities so as to actualize President William Ruto's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Mudavadi, who spoke during the inaugural Principal Secretaries Committee, directed the accounting officers to further identify areas considered as functional duplication or inconsistency as they seek to actualize the pre-election pledges of the Kenya Kwanza administration. The Prime Cabinet Secretary was holding the inaugural meeting Wednesday, bringing together government accounting officers, charging on them to eliminate what he called the silo mentality and work together to deliver on President William Ruto's promises to the electorate.
The committee will provide supervisory and technical inputs in the MDAs in relation to capacity building, institutionalization of professionalism and standards, stakeholder inclusion, and developing a peer review mechanism to share best practices.
To do that, the Prime CS called on the PSS to begin with identifying possible functional overlaps, duplication, and inconsistency.
The main characteristics of an effective public service is in its ability to convert political statements and public pronouncements and demands into public policy and legislation.
You need, as accounting officers, you need, as authorized officers, to be responsible, to act responsibly, to be objective, and to align each and every decision in those two responsibilities.
Mudavadi further announced the return of a signing of performance contracts in both national and county governments, with President William Ruto expected to preside over the exercise on the 22nd of April.
One of the most effective instruments that will guarantee predictable services to our people is the Service Charter, which is already contained in the performance contracts. Unfortunately, the Service Charter and the culture of performance contracting has been relegated to the periphery in public service.
They want to hear government through its cabinet secretaries and the principal secretaries responding in a manner that addresses the challenge or the issue that we have been raised.
The PSS will also begin the review of chronic non-performing contractors said to be abandoning government projects midway, leading to multi-billion losses, with the aim of blacklisting them. Mudavadi reminding the PSS that the image and reputation of government is dented by unethical practices and that ministries, departments and government agencies should commit to zero tolerance to corruption. He challenged the officers to list areas they feel are prone to corruption, saying special attention should be paid to huge contracts and evaluation committees to enable the country get value for money. As the world marks the World Water Day, Kenyans have been urged to be at the forefront in protecting water reservoirs and catchment areas as a measure to tackle the water and sanitation crisis currently being experienced. This even as the county government of Murang'a embarks on a plan to drill 20 boreholes in efforts of increasing water connections to local homestays.
The World Water Day is dedicated to bringing attention to the importance of water and the need to protect and conserve the vital resource. While marking the day, Meru County residents have been urged to plant trees with a special focus on indigenous and fruit trees in a bid to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Na pia tungeuliza wale ambao wameencroach catchment zetu watoke kwa hizo catchment, na hizo catchment ziweze kupandwa miti, na ndio hata county government iweze kuprotect. Na sisi kama serikali hatutarudi nyuma. Wale ambao wameingia kwa catchment zetu tutawatoa, hata kama ni kutumia nguvu, kwa sababu hiyo ndio heritage ambayo tuliachiwa na Mungu within Meru County, na tunahitaji to protect for this generation and the future generations.
The residents acknowledged that it was their role to safeguard water catchment areas and urged the government to take stiff action to those polluting rivers.
Na viwanda vingi ambavyo vinatupa maji taka pale ndani ya mito, na pia tuko na watu ambao wanarusha taka, wanabiashara ama pia vijiji ambao viko karibu na mito zetu. Tunawaomba tafadhali msije mkatupa taka pale, chukua hata kama chimba shimo pale, rusha alafu choma ile takataka, kwa sababu ukirusha uchafu katika maji yale mabomba yatakauka.
In Murang'a, the county governor Irongo Kang'ata has revealed his administration will give priority to semi-arid areas which have low water connections. Speaking while commissioning the drilling of a borehole at Mbogoini Primary School in Kigumo sub-county, Kang'ata said his administration has embarked on a plan to drill 20 boreholes in efforts of increasing water connections to local homesteads.
One is in Kangema Medical Center, Kangema Health Center, one in Kigumo, another one in Mudibi, across here in Kigumo, others in Kambiti, several places as per the various requests that we got. Only 66% of Murang'a residents have clean piped water. We want to make it 100%.
Leaders present highlighted the importance of proper coordination between national and county government, with an emphasis on resources for water projects.
We are not even at 60%, to be honest, slightly less because of the challenges we've had here. But my prayer and hope is that we'll have this issue sorted once and for all before our term is over.
Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Time for us to take our first breather on Prime Edition. But of course, a reminder, the conversation on the showdown between government members of parliament and the opposition forms the basis of our conversation tonight. And we will be speaking to Duncan Maina Mathenga, the member of parliament for Nyeri Town constituency. Don't go too far. Of course, when you come back, Yamoni is lined up for you, including business with Wairimo Jenga and sports with Wahome.
This morning, I've been able to make my decision, or my early decision, to be able to officially retire from the National Police Service with immediate effect as we continue forward for our country. This has been prompted by personal matters, and I have discussed with His Excellency the President, and he has accepted my early retirement as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. On this backdrop, I wish to sincerely thank His Excellency the President for giving me the opportunity to serve in his government as the Inspector General of the National Police Service.
And the days when we were in primary school, when we used to be told, asiyefunzwa na mamaye, ufunzwa na ulimwengu, na ulimwengu mwenyewe, mafundishowe machungu. Those were our primary days.
I tell you, you've just taken me back to mgeni ukumpokea kumbe.
There's a lot of just this shairi, yes. They are always so dire. They are always just warning about dire consequences. As you fools are like you're saying, na mamake, atafunzwa na maandamano, and other things.
Allah anatuambia ndani ya kitabu chake kitukufu, enyi ambao mlioamini nimewafaradhishieni funga.
Yani enyi mlioamini funga ya Ramadhan imefaradhishwa juu yenu kama ilivyofaradhishwa katika wale ambao waliwatangulia, ili muweze kumcha Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
I will never let go. I will never let you.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition. Legendary broadcaster Salim Mohammed has been laid to rest. Mohammed died in Mombasa after short illness. His remains were interred at Sargoi Islamic Cemetery in Mvita constituency of Mombasa County. In Webuye, Bungoma, family and friends converged to give their final respect to former Kericho County Police Commander Rose Muchuma. Muchuma was eulogized as a dedicated public servant who served all diligently.
The leaders eulogized the veteran journalist Salim Mohammed as a towering figure, a family man and an opinion leader who was passionate about youth development. Mohammed is remembered for his work with BBC Radio and the then Voice of Kenya and Presidential Press Service during Moi's regime.
Na alikuwa ni mlezi wa watu wengi. Career yake ilikuwa from different media houses. Na leo tumeja kumzika yeye, jambo kwamba ni pigo kubwa kwa tukando na mambo mengine. Marehemu alikuwa ni mtu ambaye kwamba mambo haya ya journalism katika wakati ambao kwamba kulikuwa hakuna hata mitandao ya kijamii, but his name iliweza kusambaa kila pahali.
Kwa very senior journalist na watu ambao waliweka mtendo kwa journalist wengi kutoka hapa Mombasa, lakini mimi mwenyewe binafsi namkumbuka kama mzee wetu na rafiki ya ami yangu, na hata nilipokuwa skuli alikuwa akija kunitembelea skuli. Ni siku ya huzuni sana kwetu sisi sote na Mombasa nzima kwa jumla. Tumepoteza tumepoteza mtu ambaye alikuwa tukimuenzi sana.
To the family, he was a humble and charismatic man whose wise counsel will solemnly be missed by those close to him. The final prayers were conducted at Masjid Nurain in Mombasa before his remains were interred at Sargoi Islamic Cemetery in Mvita constituency, Mombasa County. In Webuye, the late Rose Muchuma, a former Kericho County Police commander, was laid to rest in an emotional send-off. Muchuma, who retired from the police service in 2016, was eulogized as a loving, caring and respectful leader, mother and grandmother.
Presence in our lives was a gift that we will cherish forever. Farewell, Grandma. Your memory will always be a source of joy, comfort and inspiration to us.
She succumbed to cancer aged 67 years. She has left behind 4 children, among them KBC's Irene Muchuma. Michael Madiga for Prime Edition, Mombasa County.
Of course, we continue to extend our condolences to our colleague Irene Muchuma Odim and the entire family of Muchuma. Samburu County is one of the areas most affected by climate change and the ravaging drought. Most families there can barely afford a meal a day, and that's getting more difficult with the drought. It is forcing more girls to drop out of school to help generate some income. Sheila Kayaru was in Samburu County, where she found teenage girls who were out of school making chako to provide a meager income for their families.
In Partuk, Samburu County, rivers that once breathed life are dry. The land that produced bounty harvests of food to residents is now bare. Most of the families that relied on livestock for a living have only a few goats left after their cattle were wiped out by the drought. The ripple effects of climate change are evident and worsening day by day. Parents who are elderly, alcoholic or disillusioned by poverty are finding it hard to provide for the family.
The community is just stressed up. The cost of living is very high. Just as you see, the parents are alcoholic.
The roles are changing. The girl child is the casualty. She drops out of school to provide for the family.
And Chaco take it to the market, they sell, they buy unga, and then they bring back home.
In Kioria forest, the elephants are looking for water. Their tracks so evident. It is a big danger for the girls who are burning charcoal right here to sell instead of studying. They are between 15 and 17 years old. Their counterparts are in school. This girl is 17 years old. She dropped out of school at 13.
Lack of food that made me drop out of school. I was looking for charcoal when I became pregnant.
Her friends are also here, either expectant or with babies. In the business of burning charcoal, they met men who promised to help to provide for their families.
You find a man telling a girl, "Come, I give you food." In the process, the girl gets pregnant and drops out of school.
Education is a human right in Kenya. Article 53 of the Kenyan Constitution of 2010 states that every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education. Staying out of class to fend for their families and perform domestic duties is a violation of their right. But drought is a contributor to the girls staying away from class. Efforts to take children back to school have faced challenges, and that's only becoming more difficult as food crops and livestock have died. The principal, who sought anonymity in the county, says,
"We used the local administration as chiefs to bring some children back to school. Good enough, some came back, but others disappeared. But the number is there. Currently, 20 girls have dropped out of this school."
The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics of 2022 revealed that Samburu County is leading in teenage pregnancies at 50%. This has contributed to the high number of school dropouts among schoolgirls, exacerbated by child labor to provide income for the families. We sought the position of the Ministry of Education official in the county on the matter.
Kidogo, we had teenage mothers, we had also issues on pregnancies, but not so rampant the way the media reported the other day. We have, but not so rampant.
We have come across so many girls, and there are so many here. They have dropped out of school, and also for teenage mothers. There are hundreds and hundreds.
A report by the National Drought Management Authority of 2022 indicated that Samburu County was among the worst affected by school dropouts, with 64,818 children aged between 4 and 17 years dropping out of school. Data from the County Gender Sector Working Group in Samburu County revealed that this year, 126 girls from several primary schools have dropped out of school. Mr. Koech has a different perspective.
So far, there is no dropouts because of the food. Water is not a big challenge. So far, we are not complaining. We have enough food.
According to Koech, the government distributed food in schools.
In the whole of Samburu, we have received around 12,600 bags of rice and beans.
But child rights defenders had this to say.
Hakuna chakula shule, hata nimetoka sasa shule sahi. Hakuna chakula ya kutosha shule.
There is no food in school. I've just come from one of the schools. Some are paying for food. I rescue children, I take them to school, but I was told there is no food. Children are paying for food.
But
I heard the governor say there is enough food for early childhood learners.
At Loika's primary school in Mararal.
The drought has been so much severe in Samburu country, and really in this school it has really affected most of the girls. But the government has also tried to bring some feeding program in this school, but we can see more is still needed, because most of the girls, this is the food which they feed on.
A few girls have gone back to school with the help of the area chief.
Kuanzia term ianze tumekuwa tukipeleka watoto shule, so
we have been taking children to school. So far we have taken 15. We have put measures to take children back to school.
The government under the Constituency Development Fund has been issuing bursaries to the needy children, but food is an issue.
Tuko na bursary ya county, tuko na pia CDF.
We have county bursaries. We also have CDF to help the needy students.
Ingawaje bado wazazi wanang'ang'ana.
Cases of girls dropping out of school due to drought in Samburu County is still a major challenge. Most of them are now expectant and others are teenage mothers. They are now venturing into alternative sources of income to fend for their families. If appropriate measures are not taken to take the girl back to school, she will still remain at home without education. Sheila Kayaro-Yogo reporting for KBC in Partuk, Samburu County.
And of course, more than half of the counties in the Republic continue to be ravaged by drought. Interventions need to happen. But of course, we thank God for the rains. It's time for us now to head over to Eldoret. Our reporter Weekly for Catch is on standby. The Eldoret University is celebrating 10 years since it was given a charter to become a fully fledged university. Good evening, Wycliffe. What is the latest from there? What will happen tomorrow?
To you. And of course, we are coming to you live from Uasin Gishu County, specifically the University of Eldoret. It's all about celebrating 10 years of excellence, actually. And the theme for this, the celebration here is 10 years of knowledge and innovation. Talking about innovation, earlier on, actually, we interacted with the students here across, ranging from year 1 all through to year 4, actually displaying, or rather preparing their displays for tomorrow's Open Day. And there has been a range of activities taking place to mark 10 years or a decade since this university was awarded charter, that is back in 2013 by President the late Mwai Kibaki. And of course, this is a celebration that started on 18th all through, and it will end on 24th. And joining me now on set is Dr. Hosea Kiplagat, one of the deans in the school here, just basically to summarize for us what has been happening since like I mentioned, it began on 18th, but then I just want him to explain to us what has been happening since yesterday, that is Monday, and since Monday, and what has happened yesterday, and what is next that we can expect tomorrow, being the gist of this celebration. Dr. If you can just move here, look into the camera, tell us exactly what has been happening since Monday. Actually, I know the celebration started on 18th, but since Monday, yesterday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, what exactly has happened? Briefly.
Thank you, Wycliffe. As a university, we are celebrating our 10 years of knowledge and innovation. As you can see, tonight we have modeling with our students, and a lot has been going on this evening. And from Monday, we had the scientific conference, and we had also talents show on Monday. And yesterday, we had a cultural show by the students. We had also panel discussions, and also conference was also still going on yesterday. And yesterday in the afternoon, we had also the VC's final cup. Prayers conducted by faith-based organizations, and also exhibitions will be going on. In UAE, there's a lot of celebrations going on, and we welcome our visitors tomorrow to join us to celebrate the 10 years of this university.
Yes, talking about celebrating 10 years of university's existence, we know tomorrow will be the gist, and we expect some dignitaries. Who could be there?
At least informed that we'll have the university leadership and other invited guests. So I think tomorrow, as we meet, we'll get more people coming on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And maybe just basically, if you can move here, just briefly, this kind of talent show and the event of the evening, how do you expect it to impact students here? And introduce yourself first.
So thank you so much. I'm Kiplimo Vincent. I'm the special member in charge of entertainment, games and sports. And as you have said, this is impacting students because, as you see, we have lots of students around here. And this is an event that brings all students together. As we celebrate the 10 years at the University of Eldoret, we celebrate and bring the unity between the comradeship. And we want to bring the comradeship power back to the University of Eldoret.
Thank you so much, and we wish you good luck in all the activities going on here. JJ, that is one of the deans, that is Dr. Hosea Kiplagat, the Dean of the School of Education here at the University of Eldoret, actually together with the leader of the students' body here at the University of Eldoret, just telling us exactly what has been happening since 18th all through to what will happen all through to 24th, when the celebrations will end. Like I've mentioned, tomorrow will be open day. We have seen students students, preparing their exhibitions that they actually expect to showcase to the people that will be attending this kind of celebrations. We'll be there actually to talk to them, and also we'll come to we'll tell our viewers live from about the exhibitions here. Remember, it is about food security, and we are living a time when climate change is also a big issue. So the students here, they claim they have a solution. That is one of the things we'll be seeking to know tomorrow. But for now, let me hand it back to you in studio so that you can continue with the rest of the bulletin. Back to you, JJ.
All right, thank you very much, Cliff Okech, our reporter right there from Eldoret. Of course, he's stationed in Kisumu, but went all the way to Eldoret. A quick update. It appears like the names of the 50 CASs submitted to Parliament has been referred back to the President. Therefore, they will not be vetted, and that means they have been officially appointed. So tomorrow, you expect their swearing in so that they can assume office. The 50 Chief Administrative Secretaries appointed by the President. Tonight on Cinemas and Theatre, we focus on the staging of a play based on the Kiswahili set book Chozi la Heri by the Jicho 4 Productions. Our reporter Wangari Washiri attended the performance of a Sarakasi Dome in Nairobi's Ngara area and filed the following report.
This is a day many students look forward to. One, because it breaks the monotony of being taught in a classroom.
Unajua ukitaka kupass these set books lazima uone ndio upass vizuri. So hii performance hapa liko vizuri. I think itatusaidia kwa the exam that is on the corner.
Two, the imagination of characters they read in the set books is brought to life. And three, it is a fun day. For the actors and actresses, it is another day on stage, perform and make a living. But despite repeating this ritual every other day, year in, year out, one thing remains constant: the feeling of being on stage.
It's a good feeling.
It's the best feeling.
Chozi la Heri is a Swahili novel written by Assumpta K. Matei and is staged by the Jicho 4 Productions. It is a compulsory Fasihi set book for secondary schools. The book is about how tribalism and greediness to acquire power and riches ruins the normal livelihoods and social development. The novel has 10 chapters with Ridha as the main character.
Ridha ni amekaa ni mtu amekoma kimiaka, so directing a young person to be or to fit in the shoes of that character. What we usually do is we do and work a lot with makeup.
Ridha encounters various problems that impact his life. First, when in school he is segregated. As a doctor, he faces many issues related to corruption, like selling of hospital drugs to private vendors.
Directing him, we took, I actually took around 4 or 5 weeks for him to understand that role. After him understanding the role and what is expected of him, now we start. For you to get to really understand a character, you must first of all live and be. Start living and be that character.
Staging these and other books is what puts food on the table for the over 200 production groups in the country. But what does the future look like with the introduction of the competence-based curriculum?
The set book up there, it will not be compulsory for all the students, unlike now. We will only have a section of students taking particular subject doing the set books, and therefore with that it will be adversely affected. But that will come in about 3 years or so from now.
For members of the cast, their joy is to see the audience take home a better understanding of the book after watching the performance.
When the students come to watch the set books, they believe that we are teachers. So I carry myself as a teacher. We always try as much as possible to portray whatever the writer wanted to bring out.
Well, as they say,
The stage is the only place you can be born on the same day, live on the same day, be any person you want to be on the same day, and die on the same day. For cinema and theaters, I'm Wangare Washuri.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
DJ want to let the music play. Easy kwenda kama doba pamoja na mabeste boy. Oh 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 oh. Glory to the Father. Come on there. And I never wanna see her cry. Her heart.
Before we head to business, a quick update is that by tomorrow you expect the swearing in of the 50 chief administrative secretaries appointed by President William Ruto. That is, of course, after Parliament said it doesn't have the legal instruments to vet the 50 CASs, and that means they are deemed appointed and will be sworn in tomorrow. And of course, the holy month of Ramadan begins tomorrow. Wairimo Jenga is on the other side of studio with business. Wairimo.
Thank you, JJ. Tonight we look at the forex exchange volatility and also the dollar shortage in the country and how that will be addressed. Now, we go right into it, and the prevailing forex exchange volatility will be addressed next month once a new government-to-government fuel buying scheme comes into force. President William Ruto has put on notice traders holding the US dollar, saying the agreement between Kenya and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia will eliminate the demand for $500 million every month from the Kenyan market. President Ruto spoke during the launch of the Imara Real Estate Investment Trust at the Nairobi Security Exchange.
2 weeks ago, Kenya signed a government-to-government deal with the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia for the supply of petroleum products with a 6-month credit period. The deal is expected to start next month, easing the demand for $500 million every month that Kenya uses to purchase petroleum products.
I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks.
President William Ruto has said the deal will help ease the supply-side demands that have exerted pressure on the Kenya shilling.
Our fuel companies will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings. They do not have to look for dollars every month. And secondly, we, through the central bank, we are having conversations to reinstate the interbank exchange market that has since not worked.
Thursday last week, the local unit weakened to a record low of 129 shillings and 27 cents to the dollar, driven by increased appetite for the greenback from importers and manufacturers. And today, the shillings closed the day at 130 shillings, while in the black market, the local currency is trading at 142 shillings to the greenback, making it a lucrative venture.
With its impressive diversified product offering, I am confident that the NSC can facilitate investors to construct strong portfolios across a broad range of globally attractive investment products.
Speaking during the launch of the Lamp Trust Imara I-Rate, President Ruto said the government will continue to reform the country's capital market to make it robust and more attractive to investors. The Imara I-Rate will list 346,000 units valued at 20 shillings each, placing its valuation at 6.9 billion. The president has said the new product provides investors with both capital growth and rental income, which makes it an attractive investment for those looking for steady returns. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Maize millers are staring at huge losses after the government disowned subsidy contracts presented to Parliament by millers. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi told Parliament the contract between the millers and the National Treasury was punitive as it protected the processes from any liability, putting the whole process into question. The contracts were signed in June last year and with the National Treasury in a bid to lower the cost of maize mill. However, the deal collapsed after Treasury failed to pay the millers on time.
Last week, the National Assembly faulted millers for supplying subsidized maize flour past the stipulated period, increasing the subsidy program pending bills. Millers might be once again be faced with the possibility of not receiving the 2.5 billion shillings balance after the Ministry of Agriculture disowned the contract millers presented to the National Assembly.
I think this is fraud from where I sit. I have no shame in admitting realities of life and where the truth is.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the contract was skewed towards the processors, indemnifying the millers against any mishaps that might face the subsidy program.
So my contract that is supposedly to have been approved by the Attorney General is only 2 lines. The other one is 4 lines, which goes to extent of even making or saying the miller shall not be accountable. So, I am in a very awkward situation.
The government says the interest accrued from the last subsidy program continues to grow and currently stands at 300 million shillings, while Treasury owes the National Cereals and Produce Board 1.3 billion shillings from the 2017 subsidy program.
But in your submissions, the request you made through the supplementary 2, so supplementary 1 this year, you asked for 3.267. Where was the 267 or so million going?
From 14 billion, we were only allocated 12 billion, which we used to pay. This was meant to pay the millers, the farmers, the suppliers of the maize, and also the National Cereals and Produce Board.
On the current maize shortage, Linturi admitted that traders are having challenges finding grain on the international market.
But the sad story out there is that maize is so rare that we are not able to get enough maize. So during your weekend outings and interaction with your constituents, let them also please try to tell them to start appreciating that rice can be a substitute for starch.
To this end, Parliament is contemplating introducing a bill that will reintroduce the strategic food reserve. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Parliament is set to probe all contracts signed between Kenya Power and independent power producers and report in 3 months' time. Further, the Energy Committee wants Kenya Power to be stopped from signing any new contract with IPPs until the inquiry is completed.
The cost of electricity has been at an all-time high, affecting the cost of living and doing business. The cost of power has further been pushed up 10% by higher fuel prices and a weaker shilling. Kenya Power is further proposing to increase the electricity tariffs by 40% as of April if the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority (EPRA) approves the new tariffs. A motion on reduction of the cost of electricity is before Parliament that seeks to publicise all agreements entered between Kenya Power and independent power producers. The probe will look into the location, management and the directors of IPPs.
The greatest problem today that we face in Kenya
with respect to PPAs or power purchase agreements is what we call conflict of interest.
It is not just about the IPPs. It is about a well-calculated system of cartels who have managed to thrive in this business and even tried to use all possible means to frustrate the process of getting affordable power.
They have only one purpose, these PPAs. They have only one purpose, to ensure that the producers make a profit, and a huge profit at that, without regard completely for the cost to the consumers.
Parliament wants Departmental Committee on Energy to undertake an inquiry into the operations of Kenya Power in relations to the agreements entered into with IPPs within 120 days.
You contract IPPs, and the only thing they are supposed to do is that you are not paying them for consumption, you are paying them for capacity.
There is need to put in place policies, strategies, and regulatory measures for better planning to moderate the cost of electricity.
Cognizant of past recommendations from previous task force reports relating to power purchase, the MPs warned Kenya Power barred from entering into new agreements with independent power producers until the report is tabled before Parliament.
Here is that, Mr. Speaker, many investors have opted to go to Ethiopia and other nations within the region to set up their manufacturing plant because of the cost of energy in this country.
The issue of electricity in this country will have sorted so many other problems.
Parliamentarians are concerned that Kenya Power procured a large quantity of power from IPPS at a greater cost, leaving out KenGen, hence the higher cost of power.
Now, tapping solar energy to power water pumps could help farmers move away from rain-fed agriculture and build resilience as climate change continues to wreck agriculture. Water and Energy Solutions Farm Davis and Shatleaf says farmers should make use of available technology that helps in sustainable water pumping, harvesting, treatment and recycling. This comes as the world marks World Water Day.
With a population of 53 million, Water Organization reports about 28 million Kenyans lack access to safe water, while 41 million don't have access to improved sanitation. Millions of Kenyans still live with limited access to water, with many communities relying on hand pumps or electric water pumps that are costly to maintain. Davis and Shatleaf says use of solarized water pumps can help ensure efficient and sustainable use of water.
Enshrinement in the regulation of sustainable technologies, going forward, long-term planning around that. And I think the main technologies that I would pick out would be solar-powered pumping, solar-powered borehole pumping, which is obviously a renewable energy source. I think the focus is to now respond to the urgency, accelerate all the measures that need to be put in place so that we can alleviate the suffering and plan for a better and more sustainable future.
He says solarized water pumping has proven to be operationally, financially and environmentally sustainable, bringing the cost of access to clean and safe water down tremendously for both household and industrial use, including, importantly, farming.
And if we, keep our eye on sustainability, environmental impact, and basically using smart solutions, I think we will be able to be in a much better place in 10 years, where we are protected from environmental shocks, and hopefully we're not getting as many of those shocks because of the way we've managed ourselves. And I think a lot of the governments in the region are focused on this now. So I'm hopeful, and we want to also play our part in moving towards that.
Growing water demand and water scarcity have turned into a notable challenge in Kenya. The challenges are especially evident in rural areas and urban slums, where people are often unable to connect to piped water infrastructure, hence the need for technology solutions such as solarized water pumps. Andrew Kero for Prime Edition.
Well, last but not least, the county government of Makueni has launched the Ajiri program and Ajiri Center to help youth find well-paying jobs. The Makueni Ajiri Center will offer a wide range of services to the youth, including digital skills training, mentorship, free access to music and podcast recording studies or other studios, and cybersecurity training and certification. The center will help the youth to participate in the digital economy and expose them to job opportunities and online markets.
The Ajiri Center is a partnership between Makueni County, Tribus TSG, a subsidiary of Centum Investment Company, and the MasterCard Foundation.
Great. Thank you.
Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., who launched the Ajiri program, and Ajiri Center at the Wote Green Park, has said the center will offer a wide range of services to the youth, including digital skills training, mentorship, free access to music and podcast recording studios, and cybersecurity training and certification.
The program will provide a great environment for talent growth. In the Ajiri Center, we have a fully equipped music studio where our youth can participate in recording their talents in music, passion in podcasting, and careers in DJing. This will be offered for free, and these are practical skills that will earn you a decent living.
The Makueni governor has also said the initiative will enable the youth to participate fully in the digital economy and expose them to job opportunities and online markets.
The success of this program and this center, between the private sector, government and civil society, we must work together to ensure our youth and women have access to this resource.
The centers will also offer the youth a music studio where they could participate in recording their talents in music, podcast and disc jockeying. Terry Njenga, Prime Edition.
Interesting there. Now that's how we wind up business news for tonight, but don't go anywhere. Daniel Wahome is up next with a sports update. My name is Wairi Mujenga. Have a good night.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
And the days when we were in primary school, when we used to be told, asiyefunzwa na mamaye, ufunzwa na ulimwengu, na ulimwengu mwenyewe, mafundishowe machungu. Those were our primary days.
I tell you, you've just taken me back to mgeni ukumpokea kumbe.
There's a lot of just this shairi. Yes. You are always so dire. You are always just warning about dire consequences. Asiyefunzwa like you are saying, na mamake atafunzwa na maandamano and other things.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome. Let's get the sport. And the national soccer team, the Harambee Stars, has stepped up preparations ahead of their friendly match against Iran in Tehran on the 28th of March. Meanwhile, the national women's soccer team, the Harambee Starlets, will play an international friendly match against Albania on the 11th of April in Tirana.
The tactician named a provisional squad last week for Iran match, which includes local and foreign-based players, led by captain and Al-Dulail forward Michael Olunga. Foreign-based players have been trickling in camp, including Norwegian-based player Alfred Skriven and defender Daniel Anyembe from Denmark. The team will hold their final training session on March 25th as they prepare to face Iran, which finished third in Group B of the 2022 World Cup held in Qatar. Meanwhile, the national women's soccer team, Harambee Starlets, will play an international friendly match against Albania on April 11 in Tirana. This is the first international engagement for Starlets in over a year after Football Kenya Federation suspension by the World Football Governing Body FIFA. Albania is ranked 78 places above Kenya in FIFA women's ranking. The team will report to come on March 30th and leaves for Albania on April 8th.
Now, hit squad tactician Musa Benjamin has criticized the referees in charge of 2018 Commonwealth Games of bronze medalist Christine Ongare round of 16 bout, following the boxers' elimination at the AIBA Women's World Boxing Championships. Ongare's medal aspirations were extinguished after falling to Turkey's Erivan Barut in the pre-quarterfinals at the KD Jadhav Indoor Hall in Delhi, India.
The 2018 Commonwealth Games bronze medalist made a frantic attempt to assert authority in the brief minimum weight encounter that was characterized by a number of punches. However, Barut claimed a quick victory, stopping the Kenyan in the first round after an 8-standing count. Musa termed the referee's decision as ridiculous, while Ongare claimed she was robbed in broad daylight.
I don't know kama ni pre-judgment wakati labda wakati wa mchezo huyu referee anaangalia anaona tu kwamba watu wengine tayari washapoteza hata kabla mchezo hujaanza au sielewi.
Yeye alikuwa akisema stop. Kuna sasa tulikuwa tunangangana hiyo over yangu ikishika akanilalia nikampiga ndo nikajaribu kutana akakuja kama amenilalia na mwili hapo ndio amerudi akasema stop. So ndio unaona hata niligeuka nikamwangalia. But sasa mimi kama athlete sina say yoyote, ilibidi ni accept Kenya amedecide.
Musa also lashed out the organizers for bearing him from the ringside for the remainder of the tournament. Ongare ambled Tanzania's Rama Maganga on her way to the round of 16. Barut will now take on Tokyo Olympian Yasmin Motaki, who beat Martha Lopez of Spain in the round of 16. It was another painful exit of the Kenyan pugilist, with 10 boxers having already booked their early flights.
Now, Mombasa Amputee Football Club will take on Sauti Parasports Club of Tanzania in a friendly match on the 29th of April at the Uhuru Stadium in Dar es Salaam. Captain Albert Kalama says the team is currently on an intensive training ahead of their tour of Tanzania. Club chairman Antonio Wando called on the county government of Mombasa for financial assistance to cater for the team's expenses in Tanzania. On his part, Mombasa Amputee Football Club Secretary Jeffrey Kamande said his vision is to see the team players go professional. The friendly match is a build-up ahead of the Confederation of African Cup for Amputee Football. The team will be camping in Mombasa for training at the Mbaraki Sports Club from the 13th to the 23rd of April before departure.
Iko tu poa, and I want to assure you we are going to take the cup to come with it here in Mombasa County.
Tunaendelea kujipanga, tunaendelea kujiweka katika position na tunapanga kwamba tarehe 13 tuingie katika camp. Tuwe camp kuanzia tarehe 23, tuanze tarehe 13 mpaka tarehe 23. Tuwe hapa uwanjani tukifanya practice tukijiweka tayari.
And Arsenal will need to come from behind to progress to the semi-finals of the UEFA Women's Champions League after losing by a goal to 0 to Bayern Munich in the first leg of their quarter-final tie at the Allianz Arena. Meanwhile, teenager Parayuelo's curling strike gave Barcelona a 1-0 victory over Women's Champions League debutants Roma.
Just under 10 minutes to go until half-time, and still this one finally poised.
Lee Shula's powerful 29th minute header gave Bayern the advantage on a frustrating evening for the Gunners.
Jana's Edival side, chasing a first semi-final spot in a decade, came close to an equalizer on several occasions. Shula was a standout performer, also chipping just wide in the first half. Bayern's top scorer beat Laura Weinrother at the back post and thumped her header past Arsenal goalkeeper Manuela Zinsberger as the hosts took advantage of their growing pressure in the first half.
The black shirts crowding the penalty area once more, and Schuller was one of them, and Schuller's header gives Bayern the lead. Their top scorers at it once again.
In another match, teenager Paruelo's curling strike gave Barcelona a 1-0 victory over Women's Champions League debutants Roma in the first leg of their quarter-finals match.
Guijarro into Paruelo. Brilliant goal. The young 19-year-old finds the breakthrough for Barcelona.
Tonight, Paris Saint-Germain plays Hulsberg Ladies.
About fouls leading up to that, but there is absolutely no.
And go stateside, where five-time NBA All-Star Klay Thompson says NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors, must show seriousness and fight to secure a win if they're to make the playoffs. The Warriors ended an 11-game losing streak on the road with victory at the Houston Rockets on Monday, and with 9 games left, they are in the final playoff position in the Western Conference.
Was a shot creator. Five-star NBA All-Star Thompson has stated that the Warriors need to be focused to register a win in their visit to the Dallas Mavericks on Wednesday and also the remaining games. The Warriors lie 6th in the Western Conference, with the Mavericks having played 1 game fewer in 8th. Now his return as a shooter, this guy is still prolific, and I'm going to tell you this, if Andrew Wiggins gets the ball on that box, he's not giving the basketball up.
There's Finney Smith back out to Dinwiddie. He gets into the paint and scores it off.
In a replay of last season's Western Conference final, some of the biggest NBA stars will be in action. For the Warriors, 4-time NBA champion Stephen Curry and Thompson will be on the court. Representing the Mavericks, 8-time NBA All-Star Kyrie Irving played on Monday against the Memphis Grizzlies, but after the match was seen wearing a protective walking boot after re-aggravating a toe injury. However, Irving says that this was just a precaution and that he will exhaust all options possible to play. Another big game for the Mavericks, Luka Doncic is set to miss Wednesday's match because the Slovenian has a thigh injury.
Curry ended up on his wallet. Little finger roll.
So that's the sport for tonight. More tomorrow as we keep up with what's happening all around the world. My name is Daniel Wahome. It's been a pleasure. Now I hand you over back to John Jacob Kioria, who is going to be having an interview with Nyeri Town MP Duncan Maina Madenga, the Honourable Duncan Maina Madenga, and it's all about the effects of the demonstrations and the protests that took place on Monday and that are set to continue next week. What's the way out of this? John Jacob Kioria, over to you.
Thank you very much, Daniel Wahome. For a moment there, I thought you would almost bite your tongue. Thank you very much indeed.
I was on it all Monday morning, so it wouldn't pass.
Absolutely. Let's get right into the conversation. The Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, Duncan Maina Madenga, or DMM, joins us this night. For the record, we extended this invite to the Member of Parliament for Matungu, that is Nabulindo. But then again, at around 10 minutes to 7, he wrote a text message. Of course, claimed he was involved in an emergency meeting in Naivasha and therefore not be able to attend. So the panel was balanced, but then Nabulindo pulled out in the last minute. So we'll be engaging the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, elected on a UDA ticket right here in studio. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa, and you're very much welcome to KBC.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting me.
Karibu. You were having a conversation earlier, or this evening, in the National Assembly as regards the demonstrations by the opposition on Monday. Probably from where you sit as a national leader, your general take on what we saw on Monday in the streets of Nairobi and probably some parts of Kisumu.
It is clear that
yes.
The Azimio leader has always been a merchant of fear. in the Kenyan political scene.
Why do you say so?
I say so because when I look at his checkered political career, out of 5 attempts at the presidency, in 1997, when all Kenyans wanted Moi out of leadership after his 24 years, after his 19 years at the helm, he joined Moi in the hope that Moi would appoint him, anoint him his successor. When you look at where Kenya was at that time, including the push for multipartyism led by his father, and the other luminaries like Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubia, and the level of involvement of the young Odinga then, it was unimaginable that he could have joined forces with Moi. He had been detained by Moi. He had escaped jail by a whisker after the 1982 coup that left the likes of Ochuka executed and scores of university students killed.
And which he has denied involvement, including being bailed out by the courts.
However, the narrative that has been given by others, including the visits to Ochuka at Moi Air Base, nobody else has ever come to provide him with an alibi. His denial has been and remained uncorroborated.
Okay.
Then we come to when he missed the anointing by Moi. He joins Moi Kibaki in 2002. But their marriage of convenience would only last for 3 years. And thereafter, the fallout after the failed bid to change the constitution, to get a new constitution in 2005. And that demonstrates that Raila Odinga is an impatient man. He was not patient enough to stay within the Moi administration. He was not patient enough to stay within the Kibaki administration, despite them winning against retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and KANU in 2002. Then we would go into the contest that resulted in the lowest moment for our country after the 2007 elections. And that election almost saw our country torn down the middle. It took the intervention of the international community to come and save us from going the Rwanda route. Despite the unity government that was formed after the 2007-2008 post-election violence, we would still find a big divide between the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister going into the 2013 competition. How come, if, as Raila has put himself as the person who could have united Kenyans, how come he was unable to unite the government of national unity that he served as a Prime Minister and President Uhuru as a Deputy Prime Minister to go into elections in 2013 under a unitary system where all Kenyans were together, as we had been persuaded to pursue after the 2007 fiasco. Once again, we see the lack of wisdom in holding the country together.
And that is on, you were saying that is on the part of the former Prime Minister. But let's just come very quickly to the Monday demonstrations so that we move on from Monday.
So I was bringing in the chronology.
Okay.
That when you look at that history, the seed of fear among Kenyans, whenever Raila Odinga tries to contest the presidency or disputes elections in this country, is known. Even before his troops of demonstrators had hit the streets, shops in Nairobi did not open on Monday morning. the normal traffic, Thika Road, Mombasa Road, Jogoo Road, Outer Ring Road, Langata Road, Gong Road, there was not the usual Monday morning traffic. Secondly, what is this penance that Raila Odinga and his team has, that every time he's calling maandamano, it has to coincide on a day that schools are reopening? What is this? Does he want to get our children caught up, the children of Kenya, caught up in the violence and mayhem that has become the trademark and the hallmark?
When would have been your best day to see him in the streets if it is not Monday that he called for demonstrations?
Why pick on a day when children are returning to school? We saw it. We saw it when schools were opening earlier in the year. We've seen it when schools were when children were going back from half term. These dates are announced months in advance by the Ministry of Education. Why? What a coincidence. What a funny coincidence. However, the peddling of fear, the merchants of fear in this country, the time for this country to unshackle itself from this hold of politicians who peddle fear to ascend to power. It looks like it is a designed path for Raila Odinga, that after 5 attempts at the presidency, 3 times coming in as runners-up, and the age factor, it is clear that he is so desperate that he can do anything irrespective of the outcome of what the Kenyan nation would be.
All right.
He would wish to ascend to power at any cost.
And we'll look at that, the accession to power, and whether the proposed path by some of the stakeholders is the right way. But let's first talk about the police response to the demonstrations, because your colleagues in Parliament, and I think you've seen them in the precincts and outside the precincts of Parliament, saying that the response by police is what fueled the violence in the demonstrations. Otherwise, the demonstrators planned to have a peaceful demonstration.
Unfortunately, history is not on Raila's side. At any one time that he has called demonstrations, be it in Nairobi, be it in Kisumu, be it in Mombasa. Why did they need to destroy a bank? What has had the response of the police to do with the Kenya Commercial Bank? One of the shops that was rooted in Kisumu belonged to a family that has done business in Kisumu for a very long time. And the build-up to the demonstrations had clearly indicated to every peace-loving Kenyan that these were not going to be peaceful demonstrations. If they were going to be peaceful demonstrations, when we listened to the rally that he had held in Kisumu, urging his supporters to be available on Monday for the Monday demonstrations, he went and bade them farewell. He told them he's embarking on a journey that he may not come back. And therefore, if they wish to tell the stories about his last journey, they had better come out in large numbers. They had better follow him. What is this bye-bye that he was bidding? The following day, he was in Mombasa. He sang a song where he again bade his followers in Mombasa goodbye.
And you think this was
What was this goodbye? That was a coded message.
Okay.
What was the goodbye that he was telling? The issues that he has raised, the issues about the cost of living, are genuine and legitimate. They are not unique to Kenya. If you go to the 10 most expensive countries to live in Africa, Kenya is not one of them. It's not among yet the 10 most expensive
Let's
countries.
focus here.
But we agree that the cost of living is high.
Let's focus, probably turn the ball a bit, because it is not unique to Kenya, but there are about 50 million Kenyans watching you today, and obviously they don't care what is happening in Uganda or wherever else. As a member of Parliament, what are the immediate interventions you're engaging in as members of Parliament to ease the cost of living, to probably even avert these demonstrations?
The interventions that need to happen have to be interventions that are sustainable. And we cannot look at the cost of living in isolation. One, we are in a situation where this country has gone through the worst drought in our recent history. And therefore, as a country, we are food deficient. The issue of subsidizing food, and you can tell from even your news item that the millers appearing before Parliament are producing a document that the Ministry of Agriculture, that they were supposed to have entered an agreement into, is denouncing. And therefore, the hoodwinking and outright lying to Kenyans that the money that was being put in the budget as a subsidy to food was benefiting every Kenyan. When that subsidy was paid, the little that the millers accept that they were paid, where did we find the subsidy, the cheap unga? It would be taken to supermarkets at night. Why at night? It would be available to consumers for a few hours and they were back. So they talk about the unga of 100 shillings, but none of them is able to say, in this shop, in this town, in this supermarket, the unga for 100 shillings was available between this day and this day. It has been demonstrated that the money for subsidies ended up in the pockets of select few. It has been demonstrated that the money for unga subsidy was used to oil the Azimio campaigns. And we saw the money in the elections. We saw this election was one of the most costly elections. It was one of the most moneyed elections. Where were they getting this money from? While every other Kenyan was crying. The economy was not performing well. The cost of living was high. Where were they getting the money from? So that is number one. Number two, there is the other obligations that the country has. And those obligations were penned during the reign of President Uhuru. When President Uhuru had said that after the handshake on some of the issues, he used to consult Raila Omoro Odinga, and when he implemented the advice that Raila gave him, things turned out well. Which are these things that were turning out well? As a country, we must agree that at this time, the way out of our food issues is for us to become food self-sufficient.
And how do we do that? Through?
One, we have to subsidize our farmers. And I do not agree with government that subsidizing farmers is only providing fertilizer. Good, hybrid, high-yielding seeds are more costly in this country than fertilizer. Maybe we had better give our farmers a subsidy on seeds, which largely can be produced here by Kenya Seed, as opposed to fertilizer that we are bringing out. These are the kind of conversations that as parliamentarians and the executive we would wish to have. Is it time we held a national food conference so that collectively we can sit on one table and chart a way forward? Number two, climate change and the availability of rain. It is now clear in everybody's mind. So what should we do as Kenyans? We must shift emphasis to harvesting and storing water. We must do a new water survey that allows us to see where we can be able to tap water and store it from the mountains where water discharge is happening. We must look at the confluences of rivers so that at the point where the rivers are joining, we can build mega dams so that when we have rains, like we are supposed to have now, the volumes of water are going to be increased. But all that water, even as we have suffered about food shortages now and drought, all that water is going to be going into the Indian Ocean, because the only dam we've completed is the dam in Kirinyaga.
River Dam.
River Dam. So what about the rest of the country? We must shift focus.
All right.
The government has identified very prime sites for dams construction. But because we do not have money, the government is packaging those dams so that we enter into a PPP, where we provide prime sites for dam construction, and able financiers come, build the dams, get the dams to fill with water, and then the government will enter into a water purchase agreement, like we do with Kenya Power when we are buying tokens. The government is not in the business of building dams. I don't think the government even should be in the business of building roads. It is providing the necessary infrastructure for people, entrepreneurs, to thrive in this country at a cost that makes what the entrepreneurs are producing affordable to Kenyans.
Okay. All right. And of course, those are some of the interventions that the government, through you as members of parliament, are putting in place to bring the cost of living down. But there are several areas identified by the opposition, some of them being the lowering of the cost of living, overtaxation, opening of a server, reinstatement of the full renegade, so to say, of commissioners of the IEBC. Among these issues, do you think, no, not as DMM of the UDA party, as a Kenyan, as a leader, do you think there are things that can be compromised between President William Ruto and the Honorable Raila Odinga?
Let me pick the issue of the servers. If really we are interested, and if Raila is interested in sorting out this issue of servers, let us begin and end our elections at the polling station.
Which is what is provided for?
No, it is not what is provided for. You vote and count at the polling station.
Yes.
That is what ends at the polling station.
And the result is fine.
After that, you do carry a document and the ballot boxes to a tallying center at the constituency or at the county level. And the presiding officer at the polling station hands over the voting materials to a returning officer. Then that returning officer has the responsibility of making new entries in a new form and then doing the declaration. Even if the results at the polling station are altered at the tallying center, the only way you can overturn those results is by going to court. Even when you have provided evidence, why can't we amend the law? Why has it taken Raila and in his 5 attempts at the presidency to get his parliamentarians, including this time when he had a majority in parliament, when his ODM and Uhuru's Jubilee combined after the handshake to have a commanding majority in parliament? What reforms did they bring to the electoral laws in our country? Now he wants to jump outside after squandering the opportunity, all wanting, hoping that he was going to benefit from the weak electoral laws that were existing, because apparently this time loud, the deep state and the system was on his side.
Those are just allegations, Mheshimiwa. As we wind up in less than a minute and a half, please explain to us. Here we are. The opposition says they're going to the streets at least twice a week to pressure President Ruto on some of the demands they have made. What is the way forward?
I really wish that the president can stop listening to us politicians for a minute.
And do what?
And listen to the voices of the other Kenyans in the country who are unhappy about the situation that we find ourselves in. I wish Raila Odinga can also stop listening to his cabal, cartel, and brigade of politicians, and listen to the voice of the other Kenyans who are dissatisfied with the situation that we find ourselves in. And after listening, both of them should ask themselves this question: do things have to happen the way they are happening now? Do the scenarios have to unfold the way we saw them unfold on Monday? If in their conscience they are convinced that this is not the way that things are supposed to happen, then they should ask other leaders in this country to facilitate a sitting where Kenyans dialogue together.
Kenyans dialogue together.
Yes.
You're throwing it back to the conscience of the president and the Honorable Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Because it is important. There is no wishing away that Raila Odinga has his 5 million voters. And consistently, he has demonstrated he has his 5 million voters. Unfortunately, the 5 million voters are not the majority of voters in this country. These 5 million voters will never make Raila Odinga the president. He had better listen to the other Kenyans who hold the balance that could make him president. Why do we want to bring our country on our knees? Does our country have to breed? But even more importantly, this is the biggest question. We have international observers who come and observe our elections. They gave our 2022 elections a clean bill of health. What is this contest that Raila Odinga is bringing about the elections? Where is the voices of these international observers? Now that the very election that they gave a clean bill of health is being disputed, where is their voice? Did they only want to come to Kenya after we have killed ourselves, Kenyans against Kenyans? Lastly,
very quickly,
when does ICC put a country on its watch list? I think it is time the ICC put Raila Odinga and his Azimio Brigade on the watch list.
Has it gone into that?
Because it has gotten there. How many people died on Monday? How many people will die next Monday? And by Thursday? That is how the numbers grow.
All right.
This is an electoral dispute. The 2007 mayhem in Kenya was as a result of an election dispute. The genocide in Rwanda was as a result of an election dispute.
All right.
We must do this stitch in time. The alternative is that we will have to rebuild the entire country.
Absolutely. This is time for us to put a cap on Prime Edition. And of course, probably diffuse a bit of the politics with some reggae. You're a lover of reggae?
I could do with some reggae. But of course, not the BBI reggae.
Okay. It's up next. Speaking to the Honorable Duncan Maina, the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, as regards how the country moves forward, of course, in the showdown we continue to see in the political arena. This is where we put a cap. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Thanks to a sign language interpreter, and thank you to you, Mheshimiwa, for honoring us with you with your presence tonight. Have yourself a good night. God bless you. See you around.